Gunners weaponize the CDC and NIH, and our very special guest, Sarah Joy Albrecht from Hold My Guns. This is The Loaded Mic, and I'm Dan Woss. Anti-gun bureaucrats love to weaponize government in favor of their political agendas. Now, we've seen how they use the ATF to change rules that affect the rights of gun owners without even giving anyone a chance to vote on specific policies. Now, Congress has been taking millions of dollars from you, the taxpayer, and giving it to the Centers for Disease Control and the National Institutes of Health. They've taken this money from you to produce anti-gun propaganda and studies that'll support gun control legislation. Did you know your hard-earned tax money is being used to undermine your rights? This is nothing more than an anti-gun fear campaign to produce as much support as possible for their gun grabs, and you're paying for it. Now, these CDC and NIH studies are fabricated to justify such gun control restrictions as gun confiscation laws, mandatory waiting periods, and even a firearm retirement age. Now, the type of propaganda in these biased studies are produced specifically to appeal to people who don't know any better or those who have been indoctrinated with irrational gun fear. The Dickey Amendment is included in every government funding bill and was created to prevent groups like the CDC and NIH from weaponizing research for the purpose of creating biased, politically motivated data that could be used by politicians and bureaucrats to promote and advocate for gun control. Now, several major studies have determined that there are between 500,000 and 3 million defensive gun uses per year in America. Even the CDC was forced to admit in 2021 that there were approximately 1.6 million defensive gun uses every year in America. In other words, good people using their personal firearms to stop violent crime. And the interesting thing is 95% of the time, the trigger was never even pulled. Just the mere presence of that gun stopped the crime. Since those defensive gun studies didn't support the anti-gun agenda, the CDC was later encouraged by the anti-gun lobby to remove those reports from public view. Now it would appear the CDC is being encouraged by congressional Democrats to ignore their own study and create new propaganda that supports the gun grab agenda. So isn't it interesting how groups like the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Institutes of Health abandon their very own areas of expertise to focus on firearms? Well, Republican Representative from Iowa, Mary Miller Meeks, has introduced an amendment specifying that the CDC and NIH are not to be leveraged in the promotion or advocacy for gun control. So we're going to talk about this and many other things with the master of disaster himself, Anthony Diso. Oh, you got burnt. Give him a better one. Give him a better one. I don't know if that's any better.
Thanks for the fairy dust. That didn't help.
Oh, there's your audience.
There it is. There's my only fan.
All right, so Democrats taking your tax money, giving it to the NIH and the CDC so they can produce studies that are biased, of course. You know, all their studies are biased. So they can have these anti-gun studies to push for more legislation. What do you think?
What else is new? What does the CDC know about guns?
Yeah, exactly. So
This thing's a disease. You need to throw it away.
These are health organizations. What are they doing in gun control?
Next, they'll tell you that a gun is bad for your health.
Yeah,
That's the next commercial we're going to see. AR-15, bad for your health.
yeah. Get your COVID booster, and remember, guns aren't good.
Get your AR-15 booster. It's going to help you not want the gun.
Oh God, these a-holes! I can't believe it, but they keep doing it. You know, and the thing that really should make everyone extremely pissed off is they're taking tax money. So you go to work every day, and a portion of your pay goes to fund this stuff.
Don't you wish you could just grab money from anywhere and just do what you want with it? Right? It's just like, hey, I'm going to take all your money. I'm going to give it to Ukraine. That's okay, though.
Yeah.
You can't say anything about it.
Right.
Because then we're going to come and arrest you.
Unbelievable. And think about all the stuff they're doing in New York City, all the crap, like who's funding these hotels for these migrants and stuff? Yeah.
Me and you? Yeah. Well, you see what she did with the National Guard, right?
Yeah.
They're not allowed to carry their long rifles.
Yeah. So this is an interesting story, and I
What is that?
I wrote an article about this in AmmoLand. So what happens is New York State, or New York City primarily, creates these restrictive gun laws where nobody can use a gun in New York City, and you can't carry a gun, pretty much, basically. And so crime flourishes. She's letting prisoners out of jail, right? 191 out of Rikers Island, which Rikers Island not only was like a jail, but it was also they also had mental health facility in there. Let them out onto the street, right? So now they're on the street. So now New York City gets so overwhelmed with crime. What does Hochul do? Call in the National Guard. So the National Guard now, she's putting people at all the National Guardsmen at these stations, right at the subway station.
Yeah.
And so it looks to me like it's just a control power grab. But they're not checking everybody, just random people. So first of all, what's that going to do? It's not going to help, right?
Yeah, you can't check 3 million people a day.
Right, exactly.
And then she has the gall to tell you, if you don't want your bag checked, just stay home.
Stay home.
I'm sorry, I got to go to work.
Yeah.
Dirtbag.
Yep.
But they're not allowed to carry their long rifles.
That's the next.
What's that? What is that all about?
Because the libs in New York City complained. They don't like the AR-15s because they've been conditioned to fear them.
Oh, but they don't carry AR-15s, so.
Whatever. They don't want any long guns. They don't want any scary rifle. If it's a scary black rifle, I think Dana Lash called them, they think they're more shootier. They're more shootier.
They're quicker.
Yeah, they're more shootier.
They're
black
more
ones.
shootier. Oh, my God.
So
these guys are just standing there with no weapon.
Right.
Checking your bag.
They might have handguns. As far as I know, they might have handguns.
But that's okay.
So take away, put in the National Guard, which is a basic act of tyranny right there.
Right.
You don't need to. You got police. You got New York City police. You got state police.
Transit police.
But she does it to look powerful and make a stand and look like she's doing something.
So kind of like Hitler.
Right. When Democrats created the problem in the first place.
Right.
If they had better control over their city.
She's losing police left and right. And now they're going after the fire department.
Well, when you can steal up to $1,000 and not get arrested, what do you expect?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that in New York. In New York, it's in California, I think it is.
Oh, new scum?
New scum.
Yeah.
That's what Trump calls them now. I thought
New
that
scum.
was funny. New scum.
It's amazing that she just gets away with this. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna put them in. I'm gonna put these people that taxpayers pay for in place, but they can't carry their guns. They're gonna check your bag.
Well, they can't carry the gun because she doesn't want to scare her potential voters. Remember all those libs that are using the subways?
Yeah.
They don't want to see those guns because out of sight, out of mind.
But they'd rather see a bomb go off.
Yeah,
are they that mentally disabled?
I think a lot of them are actually ignorant. I think they're ignorant to the point where they don't believe that the crime can happen to them. And I even heard
they should play the lotto then.
One guy was interviewed saying that, with all this crime in New York City, people just look the other way and walk around and they don't even pay any attention when crime is going on because they just want to get where they're going and they just ignore it and hope it doesn't happen to them.
Yeah. That's a great way to live.
What a freaking shame.
Oh,
what a shame that we have this governor, not only the New York governor, who was appointed, by the way, but California, Massachusetts, Jersey.
Oh, Jersey's awful.
Michigan.
Even Cuomo said she's terrible. That's pretty bad. Thanks, bro.
And and the worst thing about both these New York governors, Cuomo and Hochul, is they both have come out publicly and said basically conservatives are not welcome in the state.
Oh,
Cuomo said if you're pro-life and if you're this or that, and I forget what all he was, but one of them was pro-life. He said, then, you're not a friend to New York or something like that.
Oh.
And Kathy Hochul even said, yeah, if you don't believe in our policies, you're not a New Yorker. So that's what we have to live with. So people in Tennessee and in the Carolinas and Dakotas, this is what we deal with in New York. And I know we can move. I know. People say that all the time. We'll get the hell out of there. I know. And it is a choice. It's a choice to stay because in my particular situation, there's a lot of stuff keeping me here.
yeah, me too.
Businesses and real estate and all sorts of stuff, family. And there's a lot of reasons to stay. So I've chosen to stay and fight against it and try to first of all, focus on Second Amendment stuff and keep the state as friendly as to the Second Amendment as possible. So I will speak out on Second Amendment. So I'll speak out on all this stuff. And speaking of being in a blue state with guns, there's a device, and it's right over my shoulder. It's called the Cali Key. And if you have an AR rifle, this removes your AR from the definition of assault weapon. So when they create these so-called assault weapons lists, the ban lists, they're created to exclude manually operated bolt-action firearms. So just by dropping this little device right here, the Cali Key, into your direct impingement AR, in place of your semi-automatic BCG, you'll have a bolt-action rifle. And it will fall outside of the definition of so-called assault weapon. So you don't need to do anything else. So give the Cali Key a look, because with it, you could retain all your rifle's features. You could avoid registration complications. You could revive your black rifle sales if you're an FFL. You could regain the ability to do private party transfers, legally transport across hostile jurisdictions, hunt with your AR in places like Pennsylvania, enhance long-range precision and quiet or suppressed shooting. The Cali Key has state-specific expert attorney opinions on its website, so you want to check that out with respect to whatever state you're in. So they support grassroots Second Amendment organizations like Gun Owners of America, which we're proud to support here. With their sales. So Cali Key's mission is to empower customers and claw back our civil liberty. So make sure, check out this device. It's really cool. Very smart people created it, and it might solve your problems if you're in a blue state. So go to CaliKey.com and use the discount code LOADED. CaliKey.com. That's Cali Key, Cali with a K. CaliKey.com. Use discount code LOADED. All right. So, Anthony, we've got a couple stories here. We got a very special guest coming today on the show, Sarah Joy Albrecht. She has a company called Hold My Guns, which is pretty interesting, so I can't wait to get her on. But I do have a couple stories that I wanted to hit before we go to break and bring Sarah on. Fannie Willis, your girl Fannie?
Oh, yeah.
Well, her case began with illegally obtained evidence. There's a book out. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis, racketeering case tied to the 2020 election against former President Donald Trump, could be upended if allegations are true that the Georgia prosecutor's evidence was illegally obtained. A recently released book on Willis's probe claims that the phone call between then President Trump and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, a key piece of evidence in the indictment, was recorded illegally. So I guess most states have like one party
has to know.
One party has to know, right? Well, in this case, it says author Michael Isikoff and Daniel Klaidman write in Find Me the Votes, a hard-charging Georgia prosecutor, a rogue president, and the plot to steal an American election, that Georgia Deputy Secretary of State Jordan Fuchs taped the conference call. Find Me the Votes says Fuchs recorded the call to protect Raffensperger from possible false claims Trump might make about the conversation. But Fuchs, the authors say, made the recording while out of state in Florida. Florida, however, is a two-party consent state, making it potentially illegal for one party, such as Fuchs, to have recorded another without approval. So that's, I mean, hey, if the whole thing can get turned over, she's already in so much.
But how is she still able to practice law?
Yeah. With her boyfriend there.
Exactly. And then the judge says, oh, well, you got to get, one of you have to be off the case in order for it to move forward. Really?
They both committed the same crimes and the same lies. And she even had her father on the stand testifying that.
And he's just as bad as she is.
Well, he was from Black Panthers.
Oh, well, there's your first
Her
problem.
father, he's an old man now, but he was a Black Panther.
Yeah. Great.
There's this guy named Juscelino is the name. Juscelino Calares, a law and political science professor at Case Western Reverse University, said Trump's legal team could argue that the recording should be excluded from the case because it was illegally obtained. He says, quote, they could make that argument in an attempt to exclude the recording. So I would imagine... And it says here it's a tape of 62-minute phone call, which also included Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, Trump's attorney, Cleta Mitchell, Raffensperger general counsel, Ryan Germany, and Trump's Georgia-based attorney, Kurt Hilbert, among others. And it was leaked. So,
But who's going to make the determination? The crooked judge?
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You know he's going to say it's going to be kept in evidence.
yeah.
He's not going to follow the law. He's
No,
not
no.
following the law anyway.
No, he wants to see Trump.
None of them follow the law. Look at New York.
I'm worried right now about Trump having to come up with, what was it, $450 million for a bond.
You can't get it.
He can't seem to get it because banks don't want to loan it because
Right.
they don't want to be involved. You got $450 million you could...
Yeah, I ain't got 450 million pennies.
I'm sure you could scrape up 450 million pennies.
Maybe pesos. It's just, like I said, the Democratic Party is the most disgusting, corrupt, treasonous garbage can in this country.
Yeah.
And I don't care what leftists say. You know, it's just crazy. Yeah, like the defamation, that case with that ugly turd. The one that she got all, like, what'd she get? Like 800? Oh, what, Carol, whatever that.
Oh, Jean Carroll or Carol
Yeah,
Jean,
how much money
whatever.
did that dirtbag get? Like,
Well, he's still appealing that, I think. I don't think he actually gave her the money.
I thought they were fining him every day.
Yeah, but I think it's going to, if it hasn't gone already, it's going to appeals.
How?
But how can they award
How can
her
you
that?
convict when there was so much evidence that proved that he didn't do anything? That the dress she was wearing wasn't even in production when she said she was wearing it. How did she? Would she go in time and grab it and bring it back? So I guess Back to the Future was a real movie, Dan.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's. I tell you, they're hard on him. They want him so bad.
Yeah.
Then the bloodbath thing. That's
Oh,
How many times did the Democrats say that, lad? In 2020,
Yeah.
750,000 times. He says it once, and they twist that narrative. And I wish the liberals could see how they twisted and cut the narrative up.
But the people, the potential Democrat voters, the mindless sheep
Yeah, they
part
don't.
of the Democrat Party, they won't even hear they won't hear it. They'll just hear what they're supposed
They're
to hear
showing
on
them. Yeah,
CNN.
exactly. They're not. They're not. I mean, I know he came out the wrong way, but he was saying about the automotive industry in America is going to get crushed
Right.
by China because of all the EV garbage that
And it's
Joe
gonna be
Biden's
a
pushing.
bloodbath.
It's going to be a bloodbath. He didn't say we're going to kill everybody. Stupid. This is how. Oh my God, man! I can't believe how stupid.
Well, they're
people
not.
are.
The media's not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing.
Oh, they know what they're doing. It's just the sheep that follow
the
them.
sheep. It's
believe
the
it.
stupid sheep. That's who they're appealing to. Right. And it's true because you can ask some of these people who just don't pay any real attention. They just watch MSNBC. All they know is Trump Trump said if he's not elected, there's going to be a bloodbath. That's all they know. That's all they hear.
I didn't hear that.
Well, Elon Musk says if Democrats win in 2024, they'll grant amnesty to illegal aliens and create a permanent socialist state. This is in an article by the Political Insider. Ex-CEO, not EX, but ex-CEO, Elon Musk, continues to warn Americans that if Democrats win in 2024, they'll try to use illegal immigrants to create a permanent ruling party. The transformation of Musk from a lifelong Democrat voter to a vocal advocate to stop the left from ruining the nation through amnesty and open borders has been remarkable. He responded to comments on the social media platform revealing that the census counts illegal aliens, affecting the congressional makeup of the blue states and incentivizing Democrats to allow the invasion to continue unabated. Quote, exactly, Musk responded. Increasing illegals boosts Dem voting power, causing them to recruit even more, end quote. He also said, if Dems win president, House, and Senate with enough seats to overcome the filibuster, he warned they'll grant citizenship to all illegals and America will become a permanent one-party, deep socialist state. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think Americans will let that happen.
What if they cheat?
Even if they did cheat and they tried to do that one rule thing, not going to work out for them. I don't think it's going to work.
I mean, you want to talk about an uprising at that point.
Oh yeah, yep. I don't think it's going to end well for them.
And you know, I keep thinking about all the stuff they're doing to Trump to try to keep him down, and I just hope that at some point this New York City Attorney General Letitia James, I hope that he. People say, "Oh, Trump's even saying I don't want revenge. I just want success." Well, I want revenge. I would love to see.
She needs to go down.
I would love to see him really, when he becomes president again, put her in her place.
Yeah,
and ruin her life like she was trying to ruin his. She is despicable.
That dirtbag judge.
Well, she shouldn't be in this position. No. She's immoral.
Should have her law license revoked for what she did.
Well, she's immoral. Doing what she's doing, running on the fact that she just wanted to get Trump anyway.
Yeah, and it was proven before all the videos of her saying, I'm going to get him, I'm going to get him.
Yeah.
Really?
She's abusing her power, obviously.
Yeah.
And she's immoral. And I hope that he does enact hefty revenge on her. I think she deserves it. And I know not many people are saying it, but I'll say it. She deserves strict punishment, harsh punishment for what she's doing. She needs to
lose her license and be homeless. That's what she deserves. Because people like her shouldn't be practicing law. No. Because law isn't that way. Law isn't meant for you to be...
To weaponize.
To weaponize your business. It's not how it works. It's, that's why we have lawyers and DAs to do the right thing. But her and Bragg... they're all millionaires. How? You only make $134,000 a year. How are you worth $30 million? Yeah. How? Where are you getting that money from?
Yeah, where'd it come from? They take money for favors, for political favors.
Soros is a dirtbag, and he's the one that's funding everybody. Yeah. But they did a write-up on all the presidents and how much money they were worth afterwards. Yeah. Trump's the only one who ever lost money.
Yeah, I know.
All the other ones have made millions. Like Obama went in worth 1.7, comes out worth 70.
Yeah,
really?
How does that happen?
How? Your $400,000 salary, 4 times 8, $3.2 million. Okay. Where'd the other $60-something million come from? It ain't from your stupid book sales.
They're so.
The book wasn't that good.
They're so crooked, but the problem is people on the left have become so tribal about their party. They're so defensive of their political family that they don't care. They're watching this stuff happen. They know what's going on. They know Trump's being abused, and they actually enjoy it because they're vengeful. And
but did we do anything to them when he was president?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're not
That's
like
how you-
that. We don't want to be like that.
They claim we are like that, though.
No, they're pushing us to be that way.
Right.
And I tell you, when the hammer falls, it would be awful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I hope it doesn't happen. But I know that there are a lot of conservatives out there who have just had enough. And I don't know what's going to happen.
Rubber toys and squirt guns aren't going to cut it, guys.
No. I hope it doesn't come to that. But if it does, if there is some sort of civil war, left versus right, you know what side I want to be on.
Yeah, I sure don't want to be on the left-wing garbage can.
Back to this Political Insider article real quick before we go to break. Elon Musk said in an X tweet, is it called an X tweet now? It's not a tweet anymore if it's not Twitter, right? So it's an X post, I guess. Anyway, he says Biden's strategy is very simple. 1, get as many illegals in the country as possible. 2, legalize them to create a permanent majority, a one-party state. He says that's why they're encouraging so much illegal immigration. Simple yet effective. And it's true. It's true. Because if they can count all those voters, they'll shift these people around to places that the Democrats need them for population, to increase the population so they can get more representatives in place. And that all affects the Electoral College and the votes, the ultimate votes. So they're going to do that. They're going to cheat. We all know they're going to cheat. I just hope that the National Republican Committee has measures in place to prevent them or to
They
catch
just
them.
laid off a bunch of people.
Who did?
The RNC.
They did.
Yeah. So they're probably getting rid of the dirtbags who can't be trusted, and they're probably trying to hire legitimate people to help them.
Good.
Because they were complaining, the Democrats were complaining that they laid off a bunch of.
Because those windows that were blocked with cardboard in Philly,
happening.
they should have been smashed.
Right.
Those windows should have been smashed, and those Republicans should have been in there watching every damn vote, every damn ballot.
Like I said, yeah, if you don't have an ID, you shouldn't be able to vote. That's it.
Unbelievable what's going on here. So I hope I hope our Republican, the RNC, the Republican Committee, is doing their job, because we're counting on them. All right, we're going to go to break. The next half of the show, we have Sarah Joy Albrecht from Hold My Guns. You don't want to miss this interview. This is going to be awesome. This is something that you probably haven't heard of yet, related to the gun conversation. So stick around for that. We'll be right back.
Cali Key removes your AR from the definition of an assault weapon. It lets you keep your rifle with all its features, avoid registration hassles, and transport in hostile jurisdictions. The Cali Key also lets you hunt in jurisdictions like Pennsylvania and enhances long-range precision shooting. Cali Key's expert legal opinions empower informed decisions, and sales help grassroots Second Amendment organizations. Cali Key is your tool to keep and equip your AR, empower yourself, and defend your civil rights.
Our founding fathers saw them coming over 200 years away. That's why they wrote the Second Amendment. Join us in the fight to preserve your gun rights and stop unconstitutional gun control. Gun Owners of America is the country's only no-compromise gun rights organization. Not only do we inform and educate, but we bring the fight to court and win. Your God-given right to keep and bear arms is our top priority. Become a member today and help us take back America. Join us at gunowners.org.
Are gun owners responsible for figuring out the mental health issues we have in our country? So the question always comes up from the anti-gun side of the conversation. That is, what do you gun owners propose to do about mental health issues? And the question comes up because typically people who commit acts of violence usually have some sort of mental issue. But often they use a gun, but not always. Sometimes it's a car or a knife or a baseball bat or whatever they can find. So when the question is asked, what do you gun owners propose to do about mental health issues? My response is always the same. When did it become the responsibility of the gun owners to fix the ills of the world, especially when a lot of those problems are caused by left-wing politicians for the purpose of gun restrictions? So the question is asked, implying that somehow it's our responsibility and we gun owners are burdened with the problem of solving mental health issues in this country. So why is it my responsibility as a gun owner to fix mental health issues just so I can keep my Second Amendment rights? See, the truth is, it's not my responsibility to fix the problem, and I resent the fact that gun-grabbing politicians are putting that burden on me and my fellow gun owners. Many would argue that our lack of incarceration, early release programs, and bail reform policies without any attention to mental health is the problem, which makes it even more important to me and logical thinking people that we have the ability to defend ourselves against violent actors in America. Now, mental health issues and gun ownership are two completely different issues, and it's never the responsibility of the law-abiding gun owner to solve one problem in order to keep a God-given right. It's not the responsibility of gun owners to bridge that gap. However, a group called Hold My Guns is surprisingly and respectfully doing exactly that. They found a way to help in the area of mental health while protecting our constitutional rights. They're making a difference with a unique and effective approach. And it's amazing. It's an amazing merger of the two topics, an amazing accomplishment. And I'm proud to have my friend Sarah Joy Albrecht, founder and executive director of Hold My Guns, on the show today so we can discuss this interesting and very creative approach to these two topics. Sarah, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Dan. It's so good to see you again.
You too. And last time I think we talked, we were having breakfast with a bunch of fellow Second Amendment advocates in Phoenix.
Yes, at the Gun Rights Policy Conference, which was phenomenal.
And I was asking you, I'm like, what is it you do, Sarah? I didn't quite get it. And you're like, Dan, you don't know what I... You're like, you don't know what my company does. So you gave me kind of the lowdown on what your company does at breakfast that day in Phoenix, Arizona. And I was fascinated, and I was amazed that somebody is actually stepping up to do what we're not responsible to do, but it's just instinctive in us that, as gun owners, conservatives, we tend to want to take responsibility. Is that how you see it?
I do. I think that the mission of Hold My Guns and what we do is partner with FFLs across the United States to provide voluntary firearm storage, no questions asked during times of need. I think that the reason why it works is because gun owners naturally want to take personal responsibility for things. We want to practice self-governance. And, people ask, well, what's your opinion on the Second Amendment? And I say, shall not be infringed. But at the same time, we need to make sure that, and it's not, but to undermine that anyway, we need to take it so seriously that we need to have a plan for our firearms when we have situations where they need to be out of the house. When do they need to be out of the house? Well, maybe if someone's being deployed and they're not going to be in their home and they're going to be away from their firearms, what's going to happen to their firearms while they're away? Or what if someone's going through a messy divorce situation and emotions are high and you've got someone's ex accusing them of being dangerous threat. And so that person might be able to say, actually, my firearms are in storage. I know things are volatile right now, but we're keeping everybody safe. That really shows personal responsibility. Or if there's someone in the home experiencing a suicide crisis, which is the reason why I started Hold My Guns. We lost an 18-year-old friend to suicide. So there are many different reasons. Some of them are for mental health situations. Some of them are for situations where someone in the household becomes prohibited, or some of them are just logistical things like deployment or relocation or offering housing to an at-risk foster child. And this is a way that we can equip our own community to be our own first responders in a mental health situation, or to practice self-governance when we need to make sure our firearms have an extra measure of security and they're not falling into the hands of people who do not have authorized access to them.
Yeah, and I think it's a fantastic idea. And I wanted to add one other thing is, sometimes you'll have little kids in the house. I have nieces and sometimes family members have young kids and whatever, and just kids that come over for family events and things like that. And it's so, it's so typical of the anti-gun left to paint this picture that we gun owners just have guns laying around all over, loaded just for the kids to play with. I mean, it's just like this crazy narrative that they create to paint this bad picture of us. But the truth is, gun owners are some of the most responsible and respectful people that I've ever met in my life. And we do take care of the people around us, and we're very cautious. I mean, you're always very cautious, especially if you carry a gun every day. You're very cautious about these things. You understand that you have a new responsibility, and you have an ability that you didn't have before, and you have that comes with responsibility. So,
Yes.
We talk a lot about gun-related deaths. The left pumps up the numbers. They try to get away with as much as they can. The truth is that the majority, I think it's about 60%, correct me if I'm wrong, 60% of gun-related deaths are suicides. Talk to me a little bit about the numbers, the gun-related deaths or suicide rates.
Yes. And you bring up a really great point, Dan, and that is a lot of times the different types of deaths are all lumped together to pump up those numbers. And what I like to refer to, just because it's an easy visual, and this is based on CDC numbers, but PewResearch.org has some great visuals on this. And the 2021 is their most recent data for this. And in 2021, 48,830 people died from firearms-related injuries. But of that, it's really important to note that 54% of all gun-related deaths in the United States were suicides, which is 26,328, while 43% were murders, so 20,958. So it's really, I can understand why they want to combine those numbers.
Sure.
And it also is very interesting, isn't it, Dan, that, for thinking about suicide, most suicides are not using, for example, like an AR-15, but it's very interesting how people go after firearms and particular types of firearms, and putting restrictions on how many rounds we can have in a magazine, when it really doesn't address the majority of firearms related deaths, and that is suicide. So I always like to bring that up, but also remind people about defensive gun uses, which is why it's so important that we need to preserve our rights, because there are infinitely more defensive gun uses that prevent violence than there are suicide and murder combined. So we must always keep that big perspective. And those are numbers that are downplayed. The CDC stopped posting the information about defensive gun uses. And so now we have to rely on some other research, which is actually a little bit more thorough. So we always have to keep that big picture in perspective.
Well, yeah, you're right about that. And I just wrote an article for Ammo Land, and I'm trying to find the statistic, but there was a CDC study, see if I can find it here quick, that talked about defensive gun uses. There's a bunch of different defensive gun uses which justify gun ownership, and it goes anywhere from 500,000 to 3 million defensive gun uses in America per year. The CDC, it was interesting because we talk about how they fudge the numbers to try to make their claims. They were forced in 2021 to release a study that they did, and they even the CDC came up with 1.6 million defensive gun uses every year in America. And I want to make the note here that that's not always good guys killing bad guys. That's 95% of the time just the mere presence of a gun. The trigger's never even pulled. That's how important carrying a gun is.
Yes.
And so they tried to pull that study from public view, and just because they didn't want that, defensive gun uses to be a thing. So.
Yes, and the Georgetown University study in 2021 came up with similar numbers, and I think it was 1.67 million incidents per year. So these are even recent numbers, and it breaks it down to say that in 81.9% of these incidents, no shot was even fired, and that's why it's so important to have missions like Hold My Guns out there and to be doing this work, because we want to make sure that we can preserve rights while still meeting the need of people who need off-site voluntary firearm storage in different scenarios. We really want for people to be able to manage their private matters so that they don't become public ones, so that they don't become prohibited. We want to make sure that they can preserve their rights for these very reasons. We want for people to be able to practice self-defense.
And one other thing, I think Anthony has a question for you, but one other thing first, there was also a study by Gary Kleck, who's a Florida criminologist, and his study produced or came up with 2.5 million defensive gun uses per year in America. And the interesting thing, and you've probably already aware of this, that 46% of those defensive gun uses that Gary Kleck's study showed were women. So, you know, we talk a lot on the show about women being able to defend themselves too. So I just thought that was an important note.
Yes.
Anthony, you had a question for Sarah?
I just had a comment. I mean, you wouldn't want the police department or any governmental person taking your guns because they're not going to get them back.
Right, exactly.
So you're better off having her organization take them. At least you'll know you'll eventually get them back.
Exactly.
But if the police department or the federal government takes them, you're never going to see them again.
Good point. And so that brings me to Sarah. Why don't you kind of explain to people the process of Hold My Guns and what you do? How does it work?
Mm-hmm. So we are present in 8 states right now: Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Arizona, Kansas, Wyoming, Washington, Georgia, and Missouri. We have 2 locations in Pennsylvania. So you would go to the holdmyguns.org and /locations. You can see our map. You would call one of our FFL storage partners and let them know that you need firearm storage, and they would make an appointment with you, describe, making sure that your firearms are unloaded and bring them, at a particular time. And then they would go over your firearms just like you would if you were to be renting a car, where you want to make sure that any scratches or, areas that are maybe broken or something are brought to the attention of everybody. You want it to be very transparent. They would make a note about that in the documentation, the intake documentation, and say, all right, we're storing X number of firearms. Note that there's a scratch here. We also can store ammunition, and we can also store non-serialized critical parts like a barrel or a firing pin or a bolt carrier group. We can store ammunition, and we can even store keys to a gun lock if a person doesn't want to actually store their firearm there, which just creates a pause if there is a mental health crisis in the home and they still want to have access. Someone might still want to have access to firearms, but just to put that extra pause in there, that can be a valuable resource too. So the customer would come into that FFL, they'd fill out that paperwork, and basically what they do in the case of a firearm is custodial storage. It kind of mimics a consignment return. So it does go into the acquisition and disposition logbook, which is the record book for the FFL. And then at the time of pickup, they have to do a background check. That's a federal regulation. And then they can pick up their firearms. If there's any state laws like waiting periods or anything like that, they do have to operate in compliance with that. Alternatively, if that FFL has a locker service, then the rules are a little bit different. With a locker service, you're renting out that storage space. You put your firearms in there, but the FFL technically doesn't have access to it, and they're not looking at those items. If you're storing a part to a firearm or keys to a gun lock, those don't require transfer. So there's a lot of different options there depending on the storage location, but our goal is to make it accessible to everyone, and to let people know what their options are. For some people, they want to store their complete firearm because they're going to be away for a year on deployment. But for others, it's just like, I just needed to make sure that my grandpa who has dementias in the house, that, we're going to take out the firing pins. Can you hang on to these for us, or something like that? There's many different scenarios and many different options.
Yeah, and I have a few more questions. I just want to get to one of our sponsors real quick here, and I want everybody to know before we go on. I have more questions for Sarah, but if you want to know who's fighting for your gun rights, Gun Owners of America is the one. GOA is the No Compromise Gun Rights Group, and I urge you to become a member at gunowners.org. Now, what they've done, GOA has secured a preliminary injunction against the ATF pistol brace rule. GOA members submitted a record 85,000 plus comments opposing the ATF's universal registration check rule. They helped enact permitless carry in Nebraska and Florida. GOA secured victories in California, Illinois, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Plus, they won 2 legal victories against the ATF's zero tolerance policy. And GOA fought to overturn Joe Biden's ban on funding hunter education, shooting sports, and archery in schools. So with constant attacks on our Second Amendment, we often ask ourselves, what can I do about it? And this is what you can do. You can become a member of Gun Owners of America at gunowners.org. Help us save our Second Amendment. So Sarah, I wanted to get back to you and talk about some of the idea that this is a voluntary thing. As you know, you can turn in your guns for whatever reason. You're going on vacation, right? It doesn't even have to be you don't even have to be having a mental issue. It can just be turn them in for whatever. Okay. As opposed to, and I want to get your opinion on the infamous red flag laws. Now, I can't remember how many states now. I think we're about 18, 19, 20 states that have these awful unconstitutional red flag laws. Talk a little bit about maybe the difference between red flag laws and what your company offers.
Red flag laws are evil. They undermine due process, which is a very basic right that all of us should have. John Adams said that, summarizing, that without due process, we're no better than cattle. And being able to have your possessions taken away from you and not even knowing that somebody made a ruling to have that happen, an ex parte hearing, meaning that you're not even there, for someone to make a decision about your ability to possess firearms, your ability to practice self-defense, is egregious, and more people should be furious about that. Unfortunately, I even see people in our own firearms community who say, yeah, but if someone needs to have their firearms taken away, then we need to have a way to do that. And I'm shocked by that. And I try to encourage people, like, well, substitute your car or your house in this scenario. How do you feel about a judge just saying, well, I don't think that you are fit to be a homeowner, and I'm going to come take away your house, and you have people showing up at your door and kicking you out of your home? People don't tend to just create that truth table and logic and replace firearm with a different possession that's vital to their well-being. And it's really sad to me. And I think what I have seen in this space of suicide prevention and injury prevention is that people tend to throw their rights out the window. And we know that that's wrong. And in fact, it even creates scenarios where it can increase someone's mental instability because they feel like they can't defend themselves, or they're afraid to speak up because they might be red flagged. So red flag laws are different in many different states, have different iterations of red flag laws. In most cases, police and medical personnel can report someone that they think is of concern to a judge, and then a court order happens unbeknownst to that gun owner, and law enforcement shows up and picks up firearms. But in states like New York and other states, people who can report, or even people like teachers, or and then at the national level, we also have like the Violence Against Women Act, which was part of that omnibus bill that kind of all got brushed together a couple years ago. And in the name of protecting women from violence, it allowed, and I realize we're off topic with PFAs, but in a PFA that you didn't even have to have an intimate relationship with someone. You could just go out and have a cup of coffee. And if you felt intimidated or concerned, you could report them for having their firearms removed as part of the PFA.
And some states it can be done anonymously.
And it is, because it's ex parte. The gun owner does not have to be present. And that's the heart of a red flag law. It's without due process. The reality is that many different states have laws on the books that if a person is actively trying to harm themselves or others, they can be brought in for evaluation for a 72-hour hold. In that case, that person has the opportunity to defend themselves, because the person then is going before a board or a judge to say, yeah, this is why I'm doing this, because I was concerned about my life, and that's why I'm trying to harm these people, because they were trying to harm me first. But the difference between that and a red flag law is they take the firearms before there's ever a hearing. It's pre-deprivation. These red flag laws are pre-deprivation versus post-deprivation. So you should have the hearing before anything is taken from you. You should have the opportunity to speak up. So the contrast is that Hold My Guns is voluntary. And we encourage people, if you start to see concerns in your household, then voluntarily take care of them. Practice self-governance, make sure that people are safe, because we don't want it to turn into a situation where you have police showing up at your door. And, it's that,
well,
it's that
plus we
old
as
adage.
Americans, sorry to interrupt, but plus we as Americans, we don't need Big Brother determining every aspect of our lives. I mean, America used to be a place where families and the church would take care of issues and help people, and the families would make decisions on their own. Now we're in this place where it seems like everyone's turning to government for the answers and for the decision making. It's unbelievable.
I agree with you. It's scary, and it's not just about firearms. It
Right.
has to do with like public health. It has to do with your HOA that your house is part of. Like, everybody's making decisions for other people, and I think that something that kind of lends itself to that is that many Americans have become very lazy, and they are more interested in a handout than they are about practicing personal responsibility. And on one hand, it feels really impossible, but on the other hand, I hope that Hold My Guns inspires others, and that it is a catalyst to come up with and promote solutions that encourage self-governance and that equip people to do that. And that's the other beautiful thing about Hold My Guns, is it's backed by our firearms community. In fact, we have a charity auction going right now with Pot of Gold and Cheryl Todd's auction house. It's wonderful, but we have a lot of firearms manufacturers supporting that and donating to it. And it is amazing because we have a community that looks out for each other. We have each other's six, and we work together to make solutions like this possible. So I hope it's a catalyst, and that it inspires not only the firearms community, but all of America to say, hey, we can come up with solutions that don't involve big government, that help us to maintain our personal agency and autonomy in our decisions.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't remember the Second Amendment saying the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, as long as you gun owners can take care of all the mental health issues that we have in our country. It's not, like you mentioned, it's not our responsibility, but I commend you for actually stepping up and taking responsibility for it. It's amazing what you're doing. This is very unique what you're doing. And I applaud you. Hats off to you. You mentioned this auction. And you mentioned our polka dotted friend, Cheryl Todd. And if anybody knows Cheryl Todd, they'll know what I mean when I say polka dots. And her great husband, Dan. Cool name, too, by the way. And so Cheryl Todd and Dan Todd they're hosting this auction. Can you tell us more about the auction?
Yes, they are hosting an online charity auction. So it's open, bidding is open to people in all states. And it's an online charity auction benefiting Hold My Guns. We have our headlining sponsor is Sig Sauer. We also have Mantis, Magpul, Guns.com, Livefire app, HK. They have a nice BP9 that they just added yesterday to the auction, so go check that out. We have Charlie Cook doing a personalized gungram.
Good friend of ours, Charlie Cook.
Yes, he's been on the show. And I'm offering 2 suicide prevention courses that are certificate courses, great for firearms instructors and RSOs to add to their list of credentials. Olympian Lexi Lagan is she has donated a course for firearms instruction, like personalized instruction online, which is really cool. And we have Arctic Freeze Company that's run by Lisa Ludwig. She's a firearms instructor, and she also has an amazing freeze-dried candy and business. And Gun Collective and Blackout Coffee are also donors. So there's just so many great people and organizations that are coming together to support the mission of Hold My Guns and make it fun for people. I mean, you can tell that we love firearms when we're having an auction involving some of the best names in the firearms industry. So, and that really means a lot to someone who's in crisis to know, like, my community genuinely cares. So it's important to us. It does not go unnoticed that these big names are supporting our mission.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And you talk about making it fun. I always think about the Arthur movie. Isn't fun the best thing to have? So
It is.
But anyway, so we have to wrap up. I have a ton more questions I could ask you. So let's do this. Let's do this again. Where can people find you at Hold My Guns?
Holdmyguns.org is our website, and then holdmyguns.org is our socials pretty much everywhere. And we're looking forward to hearing from you, and thank you again for all of your support. It's making a difference. Our goal is to have 40 locations in 26 states this year.
Sarah, thanks so much for everything you do. You're doing a fantastic job, and I'll talk to you real soon. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for watching The Loaded Mic on Rumble, and thanks to our special guest, Sarah Joy Albrecht. You can also find us on OpsLens, Right America Media, Simul TV, and the Key Radio Network. You can also find the podcast version of the show on Spotify and any podcast platform that you like. We're on all of them. So I'm Dan Was, and the Second Amendment is not a privilege. It's your right.